Okay, welcome to the Kingston Police Services Board meeting 2402, dated Thursday, February 15, 2024. First, going to hear a presentation. I'd like to introduce Staff Sergeant Carla Stacy from the public liaison team, who will speak to the board with respect to her role regarding the Queen's University students. Hi.
Hi, thank you. I'm just going to do just an overview of what we've been doing in the last couple of years. So starting in October of 2022, we began looking at PLT as an approach to some of the large gatherings that we see on a regular basis. Not having a lot of information, we utilize OPP PLT resources to get some understanding and how it works and how it could potentially work for us. So we did have the OPP and Ottawa police PLT team join us in the weeks prior to homecoming in 2022. We learned a great deal from them and looked at how we could use PLT the way they do it, but make it work for the resources that we have. And then after homecoming, we started to get a really good idea of how beneficial PLT could be to this organization. So the PLT approach became a big part of our planning for some of the major events that we've been working with locally. A big part of PLT is the relationship building with community groups that are involved directly or indirectly with the many events that we come across, and being open and honest and communicating, sharing information from both sides is the philosophy behind how it works. If we build relationships and we talk, communicate, then both sides understand each other better and we can work together so everyone's needs are met and mitigate some of the issues that we sometimes have with protests and gatherings, etc. My apologies, I'll start that one again. Some of the methods that we use in our PLT approach to Kingston Police comes from the OPP PLT team because they've been doing it for a little longer and they have a lot more experience. So their Indigenous Policing Bureau is a huge resource for how we're making this work for us. So we have two members of the core unit that attended the OPP PLT training in February of 2023. We currently have two more that are scheduled for next week to attend the OPP PLT training. So that will bring us to four. And as stated, we've been incorporating the PLT approach to community events, especially particularly for Kingston is St. Patrick's Day and homecoming. And we've included it into our operational planning for a means to kind of mitigate ahead of time how we can have some effective results to some of these gatherings. So that's just an example of what it would look like for our officers to be out. Clearly identifiable as police liaison officers. The other key factor here is the report of public inquiry into 2022 public order emergency. There were some recommendations that were brought forward, and several of them were related to PLT and how services are expected to have PLT resources available to them, whether it's within their organization or reaching out to other organizations. And so we took this and kind of embraced it into how we put PLT forward through our organization. Since March of 2023, we've engaged in labor disputes, political protests, freedom rallies, civil rights demonstrations, and we're continuing to build relationships in our diverse communities throughout the city. An example of some of the contacts that we've made and continue to make. A big part of PLT is the messaging, and that can be done in person, social media. In the case of Queen's University students and the large gatherings, we've used actually like Post-it notes to pass messaging on directly to many students. It's been very successful. Usually very positive feedback from individuals that we speak with. So post homecoming of 2022, our police complaints went down by 50%. In 2023, crowds were noted to be smaller, less hostile, no assaults on police, and more awareness of legislation. October of 2023, we attended a planned civil rights demonstration at the same time that homecoming was going on. And as a result of the 2 officers that attended and facilitated PLT messaging, there was no need for a patrol response or to take resources away from homecoming deployment. Those 2 PLT officers were able to manage those 200 people successfully. And a lot of that comes from the pre-communication to the event, like the time ahead of time, trying to build those relationships. And in January of 24, but previously as well with the PSA strike, police have been able, the PLT team has been able to mitigate the need for patrol response in those strikes locations. Following the recommendations that I noted earlier, we've partnered with neighboring agencies, Gananoque and Brockville, with an intent to work together on PLT and pool resources should they have an event that requires PLT and we have people available, we'll support them, and vice versa. We often reach out to other agencies for support when we're doing the large gatherings, and this is another way that we can do that for our PLT response, not just for that, but for other events as well, such as freedom movement demonstrations, those sorts of things. And I put this in there just to kind of give a little bit of a better idea that the philosophy behind it works. It's studied, it's been researched, and the bottom line is how we approach people and the kind of interactions that we have can make a difference in the response that we get back, essentially. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
Anyone on the board like to ask any questions or comment? Please.
Thank you for that summary. It's very interesting. I'm curious to know what part of PLT is prior to an event. You've talked about the conversations, the building relationships beforehand. Is PLT primarily focused on that pre-conversation, or does PLT also have an element when the event itself is actually taking place? Can you give me an example of what you feel is like a best practice in both of those cases?
Sure. So I'll use the like a labor dispute or a labor strike. So if we anticipate or know or have received information that a labor strike is going to occur, then we would reach out ahead of any dates that a labor strike would start, make connections with an individual, introduce ourselves, offer information on legislation related to labor strikes and, for example, traffic concerns, those sorts of things. And then also offer ourselves to them if they have questions or want some clarification on things. And so doing that ahead of time, I've done that with the recent strike that we have, established a relationship with a member of the union there. And they've reached out to me, I've reached out to them prior to a strike date. And then since then, um, maintain contact to ensure that everybody is good. And if an issue comes up or if a concern comes up, as I had said, we had, some issues with traffic being backed up or ambulance through Fair would be concerned. I would reach out to my contact, advise them of what's going on, come to some sort of discussion on how we can resolve it. And more often than not, they're very supportive in ensuring that, resources are available to everybody, such as traffic flow. So.
If I could just expand on it, first of all, thank you to Staff Sergeant Stacy, who really piloted this, spearheaded, brought it here, done a lot of work and really made it a success. So thank you so much. Also created the MOU and a policy for us in relation to police liaison. So tremendous job. Thank you. Well, the community will see the benefits of it, but really to expand on it too is, their job. If an enforcement action has to take place, they'll step away. They're there literally at the beginning, depending how early, depends on what the event is. During, to reinforce, hey, this is the behavior we want. This is the behavior we don't want, and this is what will happen. And then it saves the officer when PLT has to call an officer. We don't have to do that threatening, if you do this, we're going to do that. They're just going in, and now whether it's a ticket or an arrest or whatever. So it's a real advantage because it takes away that opportunity of now, hey, if you do this, we're going to do that. And then you get that engagement. And we really saw that at homecoming where they knew what was going to happen and they start policing themselves. And it's a great opportunity. So well done.
It's one that is like a tiered approach to response to an event. So kind of instead of going really heavy at the start, we kind of tier it accordingly and appropriately.
And when did you implement this? How long has this been happening?
The initial start was October of 2022 when we invited the OPP and Ottawa PLT to join us and show us essentially how they utilize PLT. And it was a work and learn event. And then from there, we looked at how they do things and how they could fit for what we have for our resources.
Yeah, like anytime these type of changes happen, it takes time to see if it works or not. And it sounds like it's working. So good on you. Anyone else? Christian?
Staff Sergeant Stacy, thank you for this really important initiative. I think it's getting out proactively and preemptively, right? This is preventive policing. It reduces the strain on resources. What opportunities are there for the board to support you? I think, for instance, in terms of some of the messaging and communication, think, for instance, of the University District Safety Initiative. Last year, we had student government that reached out to us and presented to the board. But after the fact, is there an opportunity, for instance, on key initiatives that we know are coming up ahead of time that perhaps we invite stakeholders to the board and we can explain to them what the approach is that police are going to take? How can we assist in being more proactive in communication and in building confidence to show that this is not just a policing approach, it is a community approach to public safety?
I think that's kind of like a multi-task kind of thing. So on our end, for example, when you're talking about certain groups within the university or wherever, we would make those direct contacts and try to build those relationships with those individuals. And we actually have done that. But for the board, I think like providing the information that we're here, that we're a resource that can be used. And if you have something that you're intending to or wanting to put on in the community, whether it's protests or an event or some large scale demonstration, to know that PLT are here. They can reach out to us, contact us. We'll work with them, provide any educational material that they need on legislations and rules and regulations to having events such as that. And yeah, just putting the information out, promoting it, putting the contact for us there so that the community knows that we're there and available.
Go ahead, Jimmy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. How this plan can be continued to move forward and expand further to get better and better and improve result every year based on last 2 years engagement through this initiative, we see some positive result coming out finally. And I want to thank you, all of you, the entire team of the Kingston Police. As the board and as a community, how we can help to the Kingston Police to continue to improve this initiative so we can have a better and better result. The second part of the question is this program or initiative, it has collaboration with other cities as well. That's what I'm understanding from the presentation. And if is there any ongoing education to continue to upgrade the information and the knowledge how to approach better and a better way. If you have something to please explain.
So the first part of the question regards to how we can be supported to grow and develop. A big part of that's going to be human resources, right? Having the people there to do the job. Currently, we're utilizing members from our core unit, and we've been doing well with what we have. I think that it's very likely that the PLT program will grow, and that will require more people, essentially. Costs associated for a product is minimal. A lot, as you had seen in the photographs, sorry, my apologies. Primarily, it's just a slight change in the uniform to identify an officer as being a PLT officer, just to differentiate between their role. It's very obvious that they're there to do the communication piece. So that's a big part of that in regards to cost. So moving forward, I do see that there will be a need to have more resources for that. And on top of that, the demand in the city for response to community events such as protests and demonstrations is growing. And thus the need for a PLT response is going to grow with that. Sorry, the other part of your question was, again, regards.
If is there any ongoing training program?
Yes. So we have a couple of officers that have done the OPP PLT training. We have 2 more that are going. We recently had the OPP had a conference, a PLT conference here in the city, and majority of the members from our core unit attended. Moving forward, the two agencies, Brockville and Gananoque, have opportunities to come and work with us and shadow and learn, as well as attend the training with OPP as well. So a big part of it is going to be working together. When they have an event, understanding what their community needs are comparable to Kingston and vice versa. So that's going to be essential. But again, as the program grows, the education opportunities are going to grow with it. We just have to take advantage of them where we can. We can increase our knowledge of our community by taking hate crime training, which again, the PLT officers do have, as well as any other education that's going to give us more awareness into what community needs are or what our community makeup is.
One more question. So it's just following up. Is that opportunity or is a possibility that we can engage the community volunteers such as a retired police officer in our community, retired military officers to just for that particular, when you go door to door to give the information, if we can expand that program and has those volunteers to just help and finish the job quickly?
Okay, so I understand what you're saying is just like tapping into other resources. I think the key part to this, though, is the relationship building between the police and the community. And so having a police officer who is active, doing the primary engagement and relationship building with community members is key. Can we utilize other people at different times for different things? Sure, we do. We oftentimes will use like, for example, we work with Queens and by law to do some of our information, our messaging during homecoming and St. Patrick's. So we do work with other agencies when we're providing messaging. But I think the role of PLT as a police liaison team should be with active members. Just because it's important to be present and now and aware of what's going on in our community now, what's going on in our agency right now, to be able to make sure that that messaging is clear. And then moving forward, if we should have, heaven forbid, an event that is very active and outside of homecoming, should we have something like a convoy in Ottawa here, it's going to be important that you have a police officer who's going to deal with or going to assist with the event organizers and our police response supervisors. And they have to have that awareness between things.
Well, thank you for doing a fantastic job, KP, for 2023, and looking forward to have the similar result by the grace of God this year as well.
Thanks. Fred, would you like to?
My
add in?
question's been answered. Thank you, Chair.
Very good. Then I would like, is there any other questions? I would like to thank you for filling us in on what's going on, and it sounds really good. It's very informational, and thank you. Okay. Then on that, we'll resume with the meeting. Is there any disclosure of a conflict of interest? Good. And again, approval of the agenda. Question, worship, thank you, all in favor. And adoption of the minutes for meeting 2401 held January 18th, 2024 be adopted. Question, Jimmy, all in favor, thank you. For the communications, the following communications from the Ministry of the Solicitor General, Ontario Association of Police Services Boards, Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, and the Canadian Association of Police Governance, that we received those communications. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Your Worship. All in favor? Good. Now, is there any questions about the communications that were received? No? Okay. Then there's no delegations. Information reports. I can ask Chief Fraser. Chief Fraser, not acting Chief
Yeah,
Fraser.
there we go.
Chief Fraser.
No more Broadway for me. Certainly. So the first report we provided for you here is regarding disclosure on secondary activities under the Police Act. We're mandated to let the board know. And in your report, you'll see that we've had 4 people who've notified us of secondary activities. Much of it is confined to teaching at the college. And we're happy to have that relationship, which has been really working for recruiting as well, either current members or past, but there's some other jobs that people are doing or activities of interest to them. So they notify us of that. So if there's any questions on that, that's our secondary activities report. Public Sector Salary Disclosure Act, obviously in relation to, you'll see that we had the number of grants. If the grant money exceeds a certain amount of dollars, we're required obviously to release details under the public sector salary disclosure, and we met that threshold, and we know we'll be doing that as we move forward. So our report for your information, and then our Q4 accident support services collision report, which is a very detailed document outlining all of the motor vehicle collisions over the past year, where they were, what were contributing factors. And that's something that we provide to our staff as well. And it's good for the public to see this, because you know what days are good days to stay off the roads, and where the high intersection accidents are. And I think the more we can educate people about that, you know, the more care they'll take. So, and if you really look deep into it, you'll find that most collisions occur when it's sunny and bright out, because everybody's doing everything but driving. So anyways, it's all there. So.
Thank you for that, Chief. Very good. Move on to,
Excuse me, could we have a motion to receive the reports, please?
yeah, can we have a motion to receive the reports? Christian, Gail, all in favor? Thank you very much. Then we'll need a motion for either the 13 or 24 webinars, the board's decision to vote on one. So there is, does anyone have any questions about the webinars that we all use to receive information, get education, especially with the new regulations? I would suggest that we take the 24 package. I don't think there's ever been a webinar that one of us haven't been a part of it or on it. So it's well worth the money. And how else are we supposed to get this information? So I would suggest that we take the series of 24 webinars at a cost of $2,375 plus HST. All in favor? Sorry, Christian, Gail, all in favor? Thank you. Very good. Did you want to say to something to that, Jimmy? Yeah, oh yeah, it's very important for us. Yep. And also Lori partakes in that as well to be helpful for us. And it's just good all around, I think. Okay, then new business. I would ask if there's any new business. No, okay. Then I would ask to have a motion to move in camera. Christian, very good, your worship. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. And then I would say we'll take a 5-minute break